It's so good to be back on Angel Heart Radio. This is my first show for 2023, and with me is Janet Hickox. So good to have
Hello.
you here, Janet.
Thank you, Annette. It's great to be here. It's like our new
And
year.
I know, I always think this is a great way to start my Angel Heart Radio year with an astrological session, because we can have a look at how the year has started, but more importantly, what's February going to offer us.
Yes, indeed. I think February is a good month. I'm thinking of February as a buffer month,
As
meaning as a space of peace, relatively speaking, between January, beginning of the whole, buzz about beginning of the year, and then March when the real fun begins.
is that what you're saying for this year?
That's what I'm saying for this year. For right now, February. Right now, all of the planets are in direct motion, which means that all of the lights are green, all of the go signs are up, all the harnesses are off, right? We're ready to go. But this month, it's still, when planets first change direction, they don't just like speed ahead. Like there's not like 0 to 60 in a planet once it begins to move ahead. So we slowly pick up steam, and February is that month where, as of January 22nd, the last planet went forward motion, and so we're picking up steam to move forward. And for the next few months, we don't have any retrograde planets, so everything is kind of moving ahead. But February is still kind of that, we're still getting our feet underneath us. We're still really testing like what direction is going to work best. What next new thing do I want to do? So we're slowly moving ahead.
Uh-huh. I was a little distracted because Tom Wright has joined us.
Hello, Tom. Yes, he had asked me a little bit ago if this was the day, and I said it's the day.
Well, it's very nice to happy love and gratitude to you, Annette and Janet, and the tech team. That's us, Tom. Well, it's not really, is it? There's lots going on in the background that I must admit, Janet, at times I take it for granted until it doesn't work, and then I go, oh dear.
Oh gosh, right. Yeah, I mean, I think I was having Mercury retrograde flashbacks yesterday and today. Yesterday was my printer that wouldn't print for no good reason. I didn't change a thing. It just decided it wasn't going to print. And then today it was my website. I couldn't put up videos, which I do 2 or 3 videos a week. I put them up all the time. I know what I'm doing, and it wouldn't let me do it. Okay, great. And then my Instagram account got hacked. Or somebody set up a lookalike account. So if you're out there listening and you've been on my Instagram account, it's Living Astrology with Janet. Well, someone set one up that's Living Astrology with Janet 0. Do not join that page. I don't even know who it is that's done that. It's a hack, basically. So I've had to contend with that today, as well as my WordPress website. Okay. But I was telling Tom this earlier, that I was really proud of myself, because a lot of times when those kinds of things happen, it really causes me to just get frustrated. I go from 0 to frustrated in like 1 second flat. And I didn't throw a tantrum. I didn't throw anything. I just worked through each issue with some help from my friends and family.
Definitely a one to you.
Right? A more advanced way of being.
Well, it is. I tripped this morning when I had the washing basket and the pegs inside, and of course the pegs went everywhere. And
wait, what are pigs?
Yeah, and I fortunately sat down on the lounge and I knocked my leg, but I was able to laugh about the whole thing and go, well, how fortunate that it was
The
okay.
lounge was there.
So,
What are pigs? Or did you say pegs?
sorry, what was that?
You said the pigs went everywhere.
Oh, the pegs from the
Okay.
clothesline. I had a,
Oh, like
I've got a container.
clothespins. I
Yes,
gotcha. Okay,
pegs.
gotcha. I was like,
So
what is she talking about?
they went everywhere, and so I was able to have a good laugh. I noticed lately, Janet, that when something goes awry or I do something that appears silly, I can laugh at it without going into the flat that, like you're saying, I used to do that.
Yeah.
I'd be swearing and carrying on, whereas now I laugh and think, my goodness me.
I don't think I laughed yet over the
It's
things that happened today. Maybe just with you, but at least I wasn't throwing a tantrum. That's all I can say, right? I just had to work through it step by step, get to the end, and then it was like, phew. Then I've also had readings to do today and things like that. So, I had other things on my mind. I didn't really, I think there's a lot of things happening on the technological front, and whether that's, our websites and or our browsers or things like that, just technology in general. And,
mm,
it is moving a pace that's faster, I think, sometimes than what we are able to keep up with. So
right,
that's where the frustration comes in. Like they jump ahead at light speed and they don't tell us, oh, yes, and by the way, we've changed this, and you might need to change a setting in your printer in order to print.
right. Yeah.
Right. So then we have to discover these things on our own. So it's just, I don't think that's going to get any better anytime soon.
That's,
I mean, I think we're going to continue at a pace technologically advancing that it might leave you breathless, whether you're young or old, right?
right.
That's the other thing I keep thinking about is like, am I getting, too old to keep up with technology? I mean, that's ridiculous, right? But I don't know. I just don't know. But as we look at this month, then we get this little break time where we can begin to really make the motion forward, take those steps forward in whatever way it is that we wanted to, in whatever area of our lives that we wanted to. So that's an important thing for us to know. And there's not a terrible amount of interference with us then this month, or next month we're more distracted by planets making, outer planets making big changes, moving into new signs, with uh, Saturn moving into Pisces, and that's not your sign. That's Anea sign. And then
Mm,
also Pluto moving into Aquarius, and Mars finally moving out of Gemini, where he's been since like I don't know when, last August sometime. And so we'll be occupied by things, big changes that are going on next month. This month, literally, it's just the normal everyday sort of things, the full moon, the new moon. Mercury will be moving into Aquarius, Venus into Aries. So those are things, though, that we expect, right? Those aren't big changes, but next month, big changes. So it's good to get your feet under you this month to really make sure that you have a solid base to play from. Um, so take the time to do it. That would be my big advice for this particular month in
okay.
general, the bigger picture of the month.
All righty. Can we just take a little break? Londa has joined us
Hello, Londa.
and she wants to know about what's the comet energy bringing to us, and her favorite is humans. Does that make sense?
Humans. Who you? Who? Humans.
HU and then MANS.
Yeah. There's actually a religion out there, and I'll have to think about what the name of it is, that finds that use the word who or hue as a sacred, it's a sacred word, and
Oh,
linked with, humans, it has this sacredness to it.
oh,
And
she's saying, oh, God bless you, Londa. You're my favorite human.
Humans. Yes. She's bringing
It's a higher
levity to the day.
vibration. How
Yeah,
gorgeous.
yeah. Eckankar, that's the name of the religion. Eckankar.
Right.
And they have Hugh. They kind of chant even Hugh, but I don't know that I'm saying it right. I think it's who, not Hugh, but I may be wrong. Anybody out there who might be
Right.
listening as Eckankar, let me know. But anyway, uh, going back to
Comments?
comets.
Okay.
Well, the comet, um,
Right.
which I believe is today, the day that it's supposed to be visible from with the naked eye. Not here, of course, because it's cloudy. But I was kind of stunned. She said that to me earlier today, and I was like, "Oh, I totally forgot about the comet." And comets are often signs, right? They're portents or omens of things to come. I don't even know what sign or what constellation this comet came out of, or where it is in the astrological sense. Maybe Londa, you might know if where that is. Um, but on one hand, it does they do kind of portend changes. So it's not surprising to have, some element of chaos thrown into our days with something new in the heavens that's, an interloper. He's passing through, creating chaos and then going on, right? He's just going to go on. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, and I don't know much about this comet at all, but I know that I did hear it was the first time in our solar system since the last ice age. So
Right.
or at least, being visible from Earth. So it's
Okay.
a once in a lifetime event. I don't know what it means astrologically, if anything, but anytime we have something going on in the sky, it's as above, so below.
Mm.
So there's,
Mm.
the idea that there's something new in the sky. Is there something new on the planet? You know what I was talking about this morning on my morning show is that I have had this weirdest feeling of being in two timelines. So
Right.
this was the small example that I had this morning. I was in the bathroom putting on my makeup, blow drying my hair, and I looked over at the towel rack, which is like right next to me, and there was a towel hanging there. And I could swear that I hadn't put a towel there. And it was so weird because in some timeline that I'm living in, there was no towel on that towel rack. So then I thought, oh, well, maybe my husband put it up there. Why would he do that? He never does that. I'm the one that the towel keeper of the towels. So it's just, and the lady I was talking to this morning also has had similar experiences where, you're sure that things are, happening in this one particular way. And then suddenly you feel like you've been in some kind of time loop or you've moved off into a different timeline. Have you had anything like that?
No, not that I'm completely aware of, but then, um,
Maybe.
interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. She was giving me the same kind of example, not the towel thing, but she had that, and other people in the broadcast this morning were like, "Yeah, it's so weird." It's almost
Right.
like I felt like I had been in my dream state. There was no towel there,
Right.
but in my waking state there was. Well, why on earth would I dream about not having a towel in the bathroom? I mean, so then I'm like, oh, I'm just left going, okay, well, which timeline am I going to? I'm going to go to the love timeline. That's where I'm going to go. To the one where we all love one another, we take care of one another, and we are happy
Right.
together, and we could be Pollyannas right together. That's where I'm going to go. So I don't know what that's all about. There have been some spiritual authorities out there who've mentioned that at some point in time earth would split timelines, and are we the cusp of something like that? I
Mm.
don't know. I don't know. Sure felt like it to me this morning when I reached for the towel and went, there's no towel, and then there was a
Wow.
towel, and I'm like, oh, what happened here? I mean, I'm
Now,
glad there was a towel.
absolutely. Now, Tom would like to get us back on track. He's saying, when you say have something under us, Do you mean to prepare on the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual? Question mark. Please expand.
I guess, Tom, that really matters on what it is that you're in the midst of creating in your life. So
Mm,
it would be similar to having a foundation set. That's kind of what I mean. So if you have, if what your major goals or next action steps are to do with, let's say, dealing with emotional issues, then the foundation must be about understanding reactivity versus response, maybe, or love as an emotion, and understanding why you're feeling certain things. If you're on the physical realm and you're building towards something, you have to have that, foundation first, right? So if you're aiming for good health, then what's that foundation going to be? Maybe it's, visits to the naturopath, maybe it's visits to your local health store to get you set up for doing what's correct for your next steps to be healthy.
mhm,
And, mentally, we can think about that spiritually. And, ideally, we're kind of doing things on all those levels in some way. But whatever it is that you're doing next starts with a solid foundation. That's
mm,
pretty much what I was saying with that. And
mm,
because the foundation has been, sometimes we act first, and think later, which is kind of the backwards way of doing it. And I feel like we've all been sort of tethered for the last few months, with a lot of planets in retrograde motion. And now I think our instinct is to want to leap out and jump at things or jump into things. And while I understand how, we could all be ready to do that, we need to do that with a plan in mind, right? With having something first at the base to support the next moves that we are going to make. So keeping that in mind before we have lots of sayings like this, putting the cart before the horse, or
yeah. Mm.
looking before we leap, that kind of thing. So that's pretty much what I'm talking about. So hopefully that's what the message is
Well,
that you got.
Tom is grateful. He says thanks.
Yep.
And Debbie Tibbetts
Camille.
Chumio has joined us.
Hello, Debbie.
And she's saying, hi, girls. It's February. And that means happy Mardi Gras, happy Valentine's.
I didn't even think about Mardi Gras or Valentine's. I don't follow the whole Mardi Gras tradition. I don't even know when that would be this month. So Debbie, if you know what date that is, let us know. It must be the 21st because the 22nd is Ash Wednesday. I think that's how it falls usually, the Tuesday
Oh, okay.
before Ash Wednesday. We also have, as she said, Valentine's Day, and
Yes.
it has very interesting energy associated with it this year, with the moon placing itself in Sagittarius. So sort of explore, dates for this year's Valentine's Day might be explorations, like let's go to the beach or let's go for a hike. Let's go
Well,
explore something as opposed to let's sit down to a romantic dinner, maybe take the picnic and, get on horseback somewhere and, head on out. So it has a more adventurous feel to it this time, because that's where the moon is going to be. We have the full moon. That's the first big news of February. I mean, if we want to get back to exactly, what we're here to talk about. So the full moon is on Sunday, the 5th. Now that's at 10:29 a.m. my time. I have a feeling that's going to be later in the evening for Australia, and much later in the evening, like maybe even, 10 or 11 o'clock. No, that would be 12 hours. You and I are 15 hours. So yours may end up being on the 6th of, February. And the full moon ends up being a pretty powerful moon, because it is in a T square. It forms a T square with the planet. Hold on, I have the picture of it here. Maybe I can even show it so everybody can see it. It forms that a T square with the planet Uranus. So I have orange. Oh, we can't because I have that background. Dang it! I'm going to throw a tantrum now. Um, so the sun and moon and a full moon are in opposition to one another. A new moon or the full moon will be in Leo, and of course the sun is in Aquarius. And then the square will be to the planet Uranus, Now, a square is a challenge, right? And it forms a T-square because we have the opposition and both sides of the opposition are pointing at Uranus. So it could start to create some excitement or some sudden change perhaps in our lives, along with the full moon's penchant for revelation or for letting go or for completion, some aha moment that it can happen at the full moon. And so there's, the possibility of something surprising, something we didn't expect. I don't know if that's good or bad. That really just depends pretty much on how each of you are going to look at that. But as well, there is a square between Venus and Mars during the full moon. And this is one that can probably be the trigger for some problems if ever there was going to be one, because it can bring up relationship dramas, right? So, and the need to be able to sort of detach from the drama before responding. And I purposefully wrote down responding rather than reacting because
Mm,
this is not going to hold reactionary energy. Reactionary energy is just going to reverberate back at you. What is that?
mm,
Rebound, back at you. So while I think it'll be an interesting full moon to be sure, the impact is going to be at our relationships. And so be careful with what you say and how you say it. And try to detach from any of the drama or any of the hurt feelings before you say or do anything in response to that issue that could pop up. So that's a big thing to watch out for fairly early in the month. The next big thing is going to be Mercury moving into Aquarius on the 11th of February. Now, Mercury went to forward motion on January 18th, and this will signal the time when he's about to complete the shadow of that retrograde. So we're moving away from that and free and clear of the retrograde shadow. So that's another reason why this month things begin to really start to move forward. Because even though the planets change direction in January, they're picking up that tempo at this point in time and carrying us forward. Mercury being carried off into Aquarius brings us into, inventive ways of thinking. Something new, something, surprising, even ahas, downloads that come from spirit. And then you're like, "Wait, I should have done that before." So the aha moments are there again for us with Mercury moving into Aquarius. And then literally there's nothing again for a week until we have the sun moving into Pisces. And that, of course, always signals the time of year where we are at the last sign of the zodiac. We are in preparation then for the astrological new year that comes when the sun gets to 0 Aries. So we find ourselves then on the 18th and after with the sun really highlighting all Piscean themes. So imagination and creativity, um, possibly blindness, like where are we not seeing things clearly and we have to get clear, victim energy, victim martyr kind of, savior kinds of things that are old paradigms that we have to clear. And being in the thrall, if you will, of unconditional love or universal love, as that's really the highest and best energy coming out of Pisces. And the next day, of course, we have Pisces also taking center stage next month when Saturn moves into Pisces for 2.5 years. That
oh, wow.
is energy that we haven't been influenced by since 1993 through 95, I think it was. That was the last time that Saturn was in the sign of Pisces. So that the sun may be, starting to shine a light on what some of the more important themes might be coming up for the next couple of years. And then Venus moves into Aries on the 19th. That is also a new moon. And then they move together almost, right? The new moon is at 11:06 p.m. This is West Coast time, by the way. So the new moon is actually going to be the day after for most of the world. Um, but in 27 minutes later, Venus moves into Aries. So we have them moving together, which really kind of feels initiating, right? It feels like something new starting. And Venus, of course, very powerful in Aries. She's in Mars territory. So she links her creativity to Mars creativity, and boom, we can, set off into new directions. So pretty much that ends the major transits for February. So read
Mm.
between the lines, right? There's a lot of in between the lines here with other transits and so forth that are occurring, not ones that we necessarily have to, run down. So the in between the lines is, what am I taking action on, or what am I preparing to take action on this month? And that's where we're going to be supported most, right? The prep work for the next bold steps that we need to take. So it's definitely moving forward energy, but it's moving forward slower than, the horse race, perhaps. And it's gaining speed, it's gaining momentum throughout the month and preparing us for the March, April, May, June window of action.
Okay. Londa has made some lovely comments. She was talking
Okay.
about comets. And would you like me to read what she has to say about that?
Definitely.
Comets can bring several things. From day-to-day spiritual perspectives, comets are reminders of our connection to vast world that is beyond the human brain ability to conceptualize. Comets are cosmic messengers, bringing insights and information from far-reaching places in the universe. Since it's green, it has the potential for individuals to experience new heart openings and healings. And then Londa says, some say it shakes up, shatters discordant thought forms, negative patterns, potential shift of energies, vibration, and consciousness that has taken place with the heart and minds of humanity.
I love it. But all of that is to say it's pretty collective as
Yes.
opposed to personal or individual. So when it's astrological, we can attach it to a sign and then even to a planet, and then we can attach it in a chart then to how that impacts you personally. This doesn't feel personal, right? This is really bigger, more collective changes that are going on. And the harbinger of what direction those changes might be in. I love the fact that it's green, and green is the heart chakra and the high heart chakra, which has a more turquoise green to it. And I mean, isn't that lovely to think that we might think with our hearts instead of with just our brains or with our emotional reactions? That would be an amazing feat on the planet.
It would. Now,
Yeah.
Janet, you mentioned personal situations, and if people are tuning in for the first time, they might not be aware of your website and the offer that you make there. So
Yeah, so for you first timers, or you old timers, if you've lost yours, you can go to my website, www.living-astrology.com, and I offer both a free a natal astrology chart and report, and then you can also get a human design chart and report. And those are free, right? You just add your name to the mailing list kind of thing, and then I can get that information to you. And of course, those are important things to know about yourself. They really help you to orient to, who am I in this greater, wider world? And knowing yourself, of course, I always say this to people: if you don't know who you are, how do you know how to be in the world with others? It's very difficult if you're just out there thinking you're one thing and you're really something else. So astrology and human design tend to put that into perspective. Who are you? Who am I here to be? And then, being okay, courage it takes to be you in the wider field of humanity. And we all on this planet right now, we need everybody to step up and be themselves, be true to
Yes.
themselves, because that's when you're actually true, helping others to be true to themselves. So, and we see some really beautiful energies if we look through the human design lens for this month. And I like to do that because it dials in, like, astrology gives me the bigger focus, and human design are the dials that take me into more of the details around the time that we are in. So this first week of this month is really all about, and my first week of this month is the 2nd of February through 7th of February. The weeks run a little differently with human design than they do with the Gregorian calendar. So we are sitting with the sun at the gate of the narrative. Like, what is the story that you're going to develop for the year? Is it a story of it being empowered, of standing up for yourself and moving forward with your own, life plan and your own life map in hand? Or what is it, that you're going to do? What's the story going to be? Because there's the opportunity now to create the storyline. Do you want the story to be the old story? Uh, where things didn't work out right, or you're the victim of everybody else's things, or you get blamed for everything. What is that story? So it's an important week for that. And as well, the Earth is at the gate 7 this week. And the gate 7 is often about leadership energy. And it has a sort of, I'm going to use the word militaristic, but I don't have a better word. Maybe you can help me find a better word, because it has a very distinctive planning, strategic, maybe we'll just call it a strategic planning energy to help you get that story up and running. Right. So what am I going to do behind the scenes? How am I going to show up in my leadership role, with the need to create that new story, right? Not sticking with the old story, but I actually have to live a strategy, or I have to live by a strategy to do that, or else I might fall prey and try to, retell those old stories. Now, we also have the nodes shifting, the nodes of the moon. There's the south node that is the releasing. There's the north node that is the, moving towards, and they are changing gates on February 6th. So Monday, your Tuesday. And that is a time where they begin to take us on a journey through nurturing. And it's like been 18 and a half years since this kind of energy has been around. So it's a very positive expression of taking care of oneself at least as much as you're willing to take care of other people,
Hmm.
right?
Often forget ourselves, don't we?
Gosh, the gate in human design is called accountability. And I'm not always sure I like that name for that gate, because in traditional human design, it was called nurturing. But when you really think about being accountable, you have to be accountable to yourself first, and doing right by yourself first. Now that does tend to be a gate of mothering energy, nurturing, cooking, cleaning, taking care of, teaching, loving. But if we don't turn that in towards ourselves, how do you have the energy to do that for anybody else? So we'll be watching out for ways in which we are either trying to take over other people's lives by mothering, because
Mm.
that's always possible too. We have the best of intentions. It's not because we're trying to hurt somebody or anything like that, but we just smother instead of mother. But then also where we tend to do things like that, but leave ourselves out of that equation. So this is going to be about, I think when I looked it up this morning, it's until the second week of June. So this is a longer period of time where that will be our focus. And the South Node, what are we releasing, is going to be about finding no purpose or meaning in life, right? Discovering that the meaning and purpose of your life is what it is that you bring to that life. It isn't out here somewhere, where you're going to discover, oh, my purpose was to be a carpenter. Ah, That ain't going to happen. That's just not going to happen.
Mm.
Because in this particular instance, what we're discovering is we're the ones assigning meaning to everything, right? Purpose and meaning come from within. And if I assign meaning to being an astrologer, then that's where I find meaning and purpose. If I find meaning and purpose in being a broadcaster, then that's where I'm going to find meaning and purpose. It isn't going to be the outer world that gives me that. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. We may find it in the outer world, but that is as a result of something that was going on within us, not outside of us.
Right.
Yeah. So it's an interesting week. And then the next week after that, we have revolutionary energy. That ought to be fun. Let's rebel. Let's be contrarians. Let's change the paradigm and let's change it now. That's the big energy there is really about seeing what's possible, getting out of our way. Is it possible that we could go to the moon? You bet you it is. We did it. Is it possible we could go to Mars? Oh yeah, we've been there too. Well, maybe not people, but our our AI has been there. Our rovers have been there. Is it possible that we can find peace on the planet? Oh yeah, we have
Mm.
to want it. We have to create it. So it is one of those weeks where I just think there's so much potential and to revolutionize and to change our lives up. And that's from February 8th through 12th. And then February 13th through 18th is another really awesome week where we are in our passion and we're saying yes to life. We're saying yes to our passion. The only
Right.
like low side of that would be saying yes to too many things, right? Saying yes to everything instead of watching out for, well, what's right for me? What really makes me happy? Because sometimes we can get overly excited and we get, especially if we've been in months of sort of this slower energy and now we're really excited. And what if we started saying yes to everything? And then we end up finding ourselves in a position where we're only half-heartedly engaged in any of those things. So
Mm.
understanding that saying yes is a function of following your passion and not just having a passion for saying yes.
Right.
Catch that? That was a really cool difference.
You know what? Tom's saying there are no coincidences and no accidents, which is quite true. And he's put some information up here, and it said what he's sharing collaborates, no, fits in
Corroborate.
exactly with what you are telling us for February. And he's going, oh, wow, how, it's wonderful. He's just, I never
love it.
doubt what you say, but it's and it's wonderful that Tom's able to share this about a constellation, Camelopardalis. It's starting. Apparently, it's going to be seen 9 p.m. in the northern hemisphere. It's not going to be seen in the southern hemisphere. And he looked up Camelopardalis. And it is the giraffe. And when he checked out the giraffe totem,
Seeing from the higher perspective,
totem,
right? Seeing over the tops.
he checked out the giraffe, and giraffe totem is the gift of foresight, seeing over the crowd to what the future holds on the horizon. So this is it. It's just amazing. Well, or is it? So often. So
it's amazing.
It's just okay.
Yeah, but I need to know what that constellation is, Tom. So, text me the name of it because I don't know that I can see will I be able to see the chat? If I
yes,
go back
it'll
to your Facebook
it'll
page
come
later?
up on Facebook.
Okay,
Otherwise,
I'll check it out.
I'll send it to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, because I'm always fascinated by that kind of stuff. Like who's in my
Yeah.
neighborhood, right? What's going on here? So anyway, the only thing we really have to watch out for that third week of February is Jupiter's move into the gate of control.
Ah.
Yes, right. Now, not self-control. What's the word I'm thinking of? Like aligning yourself, being reflective and all of that is important. That's what this is calling for, but not for you to exercise control on yourself or others. Now, this can stimulate outside influences to try to control you, or this can be places where you have been trying to control others or trying to control, how your life is unfolding. But Jupiter will be at this gate of control for about a month. So we'll be looking at the path
Yeah.
to growth here is going to be about realigning ourselves um, to release control, because sometimes, the control comes from fear,
Mm.
right? The fear that things aren't going to happen the way I want them to happen. Well, of course, that's totally out of your hands, right? That's
Mm.
sort of in the hands of fate or source or God, however you want to play with that. Um, and trying to control it or trying to control another person is literally impossible. You know, it just doesn't feel good. It just is an energy that we have to make peace with. And I want to give you the real word for this new gate, for this, it's not a new gate, but this gate now. And it is, yeah, self-regulation, self-regulation, right? Where you're regulating your behaviors, you're regulating your own self. You don't need an outside entity to come in and control you. And that's going to be interesting because of governmental issues, right? Where,
Mm.
this is a Jupiter energy. So this is a societal energy that's playing out, a cultural energy that's playing out. Um, we want to be the bosses of ourselves. We don't want
Mm.
anarchy. We don't want everybody out doing whatever it is they, damn well please. But we do have seemingly other entities and institutions interfering with our freedom. Let's just say that. And that is an energy that we all, need to be grown-ups and to really take care of ourselves. So for example, in this country, always a hotbed issue is going to be guns, right? It seems like every other day there's some kind of, mass shooting, people dying because of guns, and immediately they want to take our guns away. And I get that. I get that. That's a safety kind of reaction to that. But then that would mean that the government is then coming in and controlling us rather than us looking within our
Mm.
own selves and how can I take care of myself? And how can I
Mm.
empower others to take care of themselves? Like maybe getting mental health issues taken care of, or, extending love out further. I mean, there's so many other ways to do things rather than trying to stranglehold. And so Jupiter will be teaching us that for a month or so. Uh, and you gotta know that the outer planets, when they do this, they're setting the tone for change on the bigger screen, right? Not just in your own personal life. Um, and then week 4, we get into another one of my favorite weeks. My dragonfly tattoo is all about this week. It is when the sun gets into the 55. The 55 is called the gate of abundance or of spirit, abundance through spirit. Sometimes we call it the gate of faith, right? It has a very powerful spiritual connection to abundance, and it lives on the emotional center. It doesn't live on the centers of doing. It lives on the center of feeling. What do I feel? And if I'm feeling abundant, then I am abundant. It doesn't always, it doesn't attach at all to the work I'm doing at all.
Mm.
So I love that week. And then, the 55 also asks us to have faith that everything is happening for our benefit and in the right and
Mhm.
perfect way, in the right and perfect timing. And that if we allow ourselves to be guided by our emotions, slippery slope, that one, right? But if we're guided by our emotions in the correct way, then we see that whatever it is that we're feeling is calibrating us to moving our hearts in the right direction. So if you're feeling anger or frustration or upset, then you're facing the wrong direction. It's telling you something's going to have to shift or morph or move in order to be aligned again with, you know, um, happiness or with love. And when we're feeling love and joy and all of that, we're facing in the right direction, right? We're going with flow of energy and not against it. So, we've always been in reaction to our emotional energy rather than learning to be um, proactive with what that emotional energy is showing us. So, proactive versus reactive, and following our bliss in a way that's about that gate as well. And then the last week of the month, which is actually crossing over from February 25th to March 1st, we are in the week of community or family, where we gain the opportunity to be able to find peace in connection with one another. I have high hopes because that puts us at the 1 year mark of the Ukraine-Russia war. And I'm really hoping that there's some pathway to peace that opens up at that point in time. I don't know what it would be. It's really not up to me. So I'm going to look for a pathway to peace in any place in my own life where I'm not in peace with it, because that's really all I can do. I can't really
Mm,
affect Russia and Ukraine, but I can allow that in my own life to be moved toward peace in my life. And that opens up the pathway for, that bigger energy to also find peace and move toward connection. But it's a really lovely energy. Um, but sometimes that gets triggered in us, family dynamics begin to cause trouble, or, somebody in the community does something that we don't like. And, we can have very reactive energy around it because it is the emotional center that's being connected to the ego or heart center. Our egos can get triggered by this connection that we have with family or with something that takes us out of peace. So it will be an interesting week to really take your own like temperature in terms of what's your peace quotient, what's your own inner peace quotient, and are you bringing peace to the process, or are you bringing upset to the process, to any process, right?
mm.
So interesting month all the way around.
Certainly is. Wow.
Questions?
Yes. Bringing us back, Janet, to, yes, how am I feeling and what is it that I'm able to do? Like you were talking earlier about how you weren't throwing tantrums. It's up to us, isn't it? How do we deal with whatever
Yeah.
is put before us?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It is always our responsibility. We're accountable for our own state of being. Now,
Mm,
that doesn't mean that, something in the outer world didn't happen that can trigger, whatever emotion you might be feeling. Um, but it's not up to someone else to heal that for you. It's not up to someone else to make that better for you. It's up to
mm,
you to work through it on your own and not sort of, vomit it out there on your friends or on your family, or, out there in the outer world. And, that's a level of responsibility that I don't know that we really have talked about, right? That, you know, we talk about responsibility in a Saturnian way, right? Being responsible to be to work on time, or to pay your bills on time, or to, be the best person that you can be. But we don't talk about being responsible in an accountable way when things aren't going so good, right?
mm,
When, your boss tells you that you're doing a bad job, or that, your position's being eliminated, and you have an emotional response, as
mm,
anybody would. We're humans, we have emotions. But what do I do with that? That's the problem, right? Some people in this country have done things like, well, let's go take a gun and shoot up the school,
mm-hmm,
instead of being accountable to work through whatever it is that they need to work through. And, they need help doing that. We have to be able to be on call for one another, to help one another be accountable, work through whatever it is, the triggers, right? Londa and I, we do this all the time. We are back and forth with, whatever issue it is that's pissed us off, or caused us to cry, or, whatever it is, because sometimes you can't not deal, you have to deal with it sometimes with a friend or with a family member or someone that you trust that can help you see the perspective, how to get back into accountability for what's happened or what's happening. And it's not easy, definitely not easy, but it's a big lesson that humanity is in the midst of learning
Mm.
that is a part of the solar plexus emotional center mutation that is taking place as of 2027. So we're darn close.
We are, aren't we? Bit by
Right?
bit.
Bit by bit. I mean, when I first started hearing about this, it was probably back in 2015, 2016. It just seems so long, so far away, so long outward, but that's really only 4 years away. Now,
Mhm.
be sure things don't change overnight. I mean, that's part of a 400-year process of change that will start to happen in the human template. Um, but I think we're already beginning, that process by becoming aware of where we've been out of sync with that, where we haven't been accountable or responsible for our own
Mm.
emotional energy. Instead, we kind of like throw it out there and, somebody triggers us, so we slug them, or somebody makes us some issues pop up and, my best thing is to take a plate and throw it at the wall. I've only done that a couple times. Oh, so being accountable though for your own emotional health and your own emotional well-being. And then
Yes.
helping others who are having a struggle to get through whatever it is they're getting through, being there for them to help them
Mm.
see, what their options are, better options than being emotionally reactive. So I talk about this a lot because it's the one thing I can do is I can talk about it.
And share with others, which is fantastic because
Exactly.
I've learned a lot this morning, and also the reminders of to be gentle with ourselves and to be there for other people, not to sprout necessarily about our own experience. I realized last night my friend needed to debrief, and I was basically sitting and listening, and she thanked me afterwards because she really needed to offload. And
Yeah.
and I found it interesting because I was drawn to ring and say, I'm in the area, can I pop in? So
Before
listening
you
to
knew she
our
was having a problem or
I knew, yeah,
yeah.
she's juggling a few balls at the moment, and I just thought, oh, I've got this opportunity, boom, boom, and it worked out. Yes. So listening to our intuition is really, I'm so often guided, and I go, thank you, thank you, thank you. Get
Mhm.
the feeling to do something, and it's like, always, always works out. If
Yeah.
I'm hopping in the car and I'll look at something and I'll think, no, I'm going to do that tomorrow. I know now to put whatever it is in the car because invariably the opportunity presents there and
And you
then.
needed it. If you didn't have it in there, you'd be like, oh, I should have
Yeah,
listened to
that's
myself.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes, it'd be like, so listening
Better
to
luck
those.
next time. Yeah, listening. And the one part of our intuition and that we could let go of, that sounds like a funny thing to say, is the part of us that taps into fear,
Mm,
right? That's the part that we need. We need to learn to tease out when we're getting a fear response versus when it's true or authentic intuition. And
mhm.
one way you tell the difference in that is it a false evidence appearing real fear, or is it a true authentic fear? And really, the truly authentic fears are the ones that say, you know, this food doesn't smell so good, so I probably shouldn't eat it. Or I'm walking down a dark alley in the middle of downtown XYZ city and the prickles go back up on my neck. I probably should get into a shelter somewhere or get out of the street. Those kinds of fears are more instinctual. But a lot of times our intuitive hits are what we think of as intuition is really akin to fear that we're feeling, right? Like you could say, my intuition is that I shouldn't, do that speech over there. But maybe that's really not it at all. It's more the
Yeah,
fear of getting up in front of people and and
right.
and speaking, right? That is the that's not intuition. That's fear speaking. So
Mm,
learning to tease that out. And that's an ongoing process as well, for humans in probably the next age, the whole next age.
And that's
Not going away tomorrow.
That's a very good point, Janet. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, why? What's causing this feeling? Yes.
Exactly right. And you know, I'm not immune to this either. There are times like I'm just fearful. Like when I'm getting ready to talk with a client, sometimes I can just feel this deep, like an almost fear that I'm going to be not accurate in what I'm telling them, or that it's not going to come out right, or whatever. And there have been times in my career where it's almost shut me down from actually sharing the information with that person. But when I can override that fear, which is a false evidence appearing real, that is a false
Mhm.
one, then it turns out to be that I said the exact right thing at the exact right time for that person to move forward in their own lives. And if I had succumbed to the fear, which I have done that in the past, I have let go of, what I was doing out of some kind of fear. Um, in this path, you grow. And even if it wasn't exactly correct, I would have grown anyway by taking having the courage to take that next step. So
Mhm.
um, it takes courage. It takes courage to be different. It takes courage to live out something besides your own conditioning, your own conditioned fear responses to things. Um, I mean, this is a funny one, actually. The other night, I was on, I don't know if it was Amazon or if it might have been Netflix. I don't know what. There's this movie called Fall, Fall, Fall. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying it was a great movie or anything like that, but I made myself watch it because it was a movie about these two girls that climbed 2,000 feet to the top of this TV broadcasting, uh, whatever you call it, tower. And
Mhm.
it starts to break apart and they get caught up there at the very tippy top with no way to get down. And their cell phones won't work because the interference of the broadcasting tower. It was like my freaking nightmare come to life because I have always been sort of afraid of heights. And it looked like it was going to be a decent movie. I wanted to see how it was going to end, but more than that, I needed to experience that fear in a safe way. It wasn't me at the top of that broadcasting tower, but I certainly was there with those two girls stuck at the top of that tower.
Right. Mhm.
Now, not that I'm going to go climb a 2,000-foot tower because that's just not, there's just something, not right about doing that. But the next time I'm on a hiking path that, seems to take me up and I'm looking down, I might have to face that fear again.
Mhm.
And maybe having watched that movie, I get a better appreciation for how grounded we really are, you know, keeping your feet, keeping your wits about you. So anyway, that was a whole
There
totally
are
different
no
subject.
coincidences, it's synchronicities and reasons
Hmm.
for whatever
And
happens
symbols,
to.
right? It's a symbolic thing. What is that? The symbol. What am I afraid of falling from or falling into? I don't know, but I won't know at all if I don't explore it. So diving into your fears, you know,
Mm.
that's where the real gold is when you dive deep.
Now, Janet, our time
Flown.
has flown. I'd like to thank our contributors today, and I'd like to thank our audience wherever you are. Tom has just said, Janet not only walks the talk, she lives it.
Trust me
How
when I say some days are easier than others. Ah,
good on you, Tom. May I remind everybody that these shows should never replace your legal, medical, nor professional advice, nor your own sound judgment. And on that note, Janet, I look forward to being with you at the beginning of March. My goodness
Technically
me.
March 1st, right? March 1st.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll
How
have a lot to talk about.
we certainly will. But and this year is sort of really advancing. We're into the second month already. So
Yep. Yep. I took my calendar off this morning and I said to my husband, well, 1/12 of the year is done.
yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
whoa, 1/12 of the year is gone.
And Tom is sending out love to us all. Bless you, Tom.
Blessings to you.
Yes. Let's all spread the love and remember ourselves as we do it.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so
Have-
much, Annette, for having me on here. I loved chatting with you. I missed you last month. Glad to be back.
Thank you. It's lovely being back. And thank you very, very much to our audience. Let's go and have some fun.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.